Hello and welcome to Handmade Originals, and welcome to all our new subscribers. Goodness, you're joining up at a rate of knots at the moment. So this is the channel where I tackle lots of different projects in the hope of encouraging you, giving you confidence, and maybe even inspiring you to have a go at whatever it is you want to do yourself. Now, what is this? This magnificent beast is my printer stroke scanner stroke. It's also, I think, a fax machine, but I've never used the fax function. This is the Pixma MG8150 made by Canon, and Canon, take the shame, have inbuilt obsolescence. What I mean by that is, after a certain amount of time, even though the machine itself is functioning perfectly, you have to replace the ink absorbers, which are the bits underneath where the printer heads go and absorb surplus ink. But this model has of course been discontinued and you can no longer get the spare parts. So the only thing I can do is to take out the ink absorbers, clean them, and then pop them back in. How hard can it be? Well, if this was a different model, it would be quite easy because you just pop it open at the front, take they're like little felt pads, take them out, wash them and pop them back in again. But for this, you have to literally almost dismantle the entire machine. Now, why am I doing this? Because I have had a message pop up here saying that my ink absorbers are nearly full, and once they are full, then the whole thing just completely stops working, which means it's then completely useless. So what I'm going to do, as seemingly I have nothing to lose, the service centre won't even take this machine in because it's discontinued and they have no spare parts for it. So I'm going to follow some instructions I found online, dismantle this entire machine and see if I can take the printer absorbers, and see if I can take the ink absorbers out, clean them, pop them back in, and then stage 2 of what I have to do is to reset the counter to say actually the ink absorbers are empty, and now therefore hopefully this will carry on functioning for a good few years. Anyway, on the basis that it's going to stop working completely soon, I'm going to have a go and let's see how I get on. I'm also going to time it just to see how long it takes to do it. I'll put details of the instructions I'm using, which unfortunately are static like this, where you just have pictures. So I'm going to go through it. I'm not going to show you the whole thing in real time because, major yawn, not everyone has one of these printers, but I just want to tackle these instructions to see whether or not they're actually clear and whether or not this does work. Right, so before I started filming, I did actually start having a go, as you do. And the first thing, if I can just show you here, this first picture here just seems to indicate remove this, as if you just pull it down. Whereas in actual fact, I can just show you. I'm going to just put my torch on my camera to show you on my phone. This actually has a little clip here which you have to push down, and a little clip, metal clip here, which you have to pull up so that you release this thing, and then then it comes out really easily, but you have to kind of do both of those at the same time, and then that comes out, and it's still attached with lots of wires, so be very careful with those wires. It's not plugged in obviously, so I'm not going to electrocute myself. Right, I'm going to continue with this and I will speed it up, and then you'll be able to see at the very end whether or not I managed to succeed. Okay, so the previous camera card ran out of memory because I was taking such a long time to dismantle this printer, but just to show that I did actually manage to get the whole thing dismantled. Those are the side pieces, and that's the top piece and the hood or the lid, and this underneath here, right at the very bottom, is the ink absorber, which actually is just these. I'm not going to touch the dark bit, but these, it's just sort of like felt. can just show you, look. And it just absorbs, as it does what it says on the tin, it absorbs the ink. But look at this. All of this gunk is actually solidified ink, which comes out from here, which feeds off just underneath where the printer inks are. I've actually cleaned this already, and I'm now just about to, and look, it goes all the way over here. So this is why they suggest that you don't need to take them out and clean them, because it should last the length of time or the lifetime of the printer, but clearly it doesn't. So Canon, it would be much more useful, if you pay attention to me, lowly YouTuber, to actually make these more accessible so that they can be taken out, cleaned properly, or not discontinue the parts just because you've discontinued the printer. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is to, very carefully, I should have gloves on for this bit, take this out. You can see it just literally comes out like that. And there are layers of this stuff. And look at all that goop, that horrible, horrible ink. Right, so I've got to get all of that out, take all of these pieces out. I've taken a photograph before I take them out because they're literally like a piece of jigsaw, and it's three-dimensional as well, it's more than one layer. Then I'm going to clean them in my bucket of water. I have put a little bit of washing up liquid in there, but not too much, because I don't want, it's quite difficult to get the washing up liquid out of the foam pad, the felt pads. So I'm just putting loads and loads of water, and what I'll do, just to show you how full of ink these are. Okay, here is one piece, and just watch how much ink comes out of this. Yeah. So that's going to take several buckets of water, and that's only one piece. So I'm not going to I'm not going to bore you with how to clean a bit of felt 10 million times over. I'm going to clear all of this up, and then I'll show it to you when I've cleaned it all up and dried it. You have to make sure the felt patches are dry before you pop them back in. And then I'm going to have a go at trying to put it all back together again. Ah! Okay, I'll be back. So, somewhat to my surprise, thank goodness I took photographs as I went, I've managed to replace all of the cleaned felt pads, I think in the correct places, here and here. I've reattached this, which makes that open and close, and I'm now going to try to reassemble the whole thing. I'm going to put this on the tripod now, and I'll speed it up so that you don't have to watch every detail, but I'm hoping at the end of this I'll have a ta-da moment where it's all in one piece, but we shall see. Is the ta-da moment, and look, so that lifts up, and that lifts up as well with the proper arm mechanism. And the only thing is I have, I think, one screw which is missing somewhere at the bottom, but because it's got sticky on it, it is not rolling around, and I've got 6 out of 7 screws holding it down to the bottom of the case, so I am pretty confident that that will work. Now I've got to take it upstairs, plug it in and see if it actually still works. And finally, here it is. It's all put back together again. There is one screw which has not gone back where it's supposed to be, but it's somewhere under the bottom here, and who knows what's happened to that, but it hasn't impacted on the function of this. Now, I have battled with this trying to do stage 2, which is resetting the waste ink counter on this. I've had numerous phone calls to Canon who tell me it can't be done, blah, blah, blah. There are tools, it's all magical and different, and all I need to do is buy a new printer. I'm not going to, because there's no reason to buy a new printer and this one to go into landfill, when I know that it's something which is just, I need to reprogram it. Anyway, to cut a long story short, after long and laborious efforts, the way you do it is you turn it off. I'm not going to do it now because I've already done it, just, you know, a bit of a spoiler. So with it switched off, you put your finger on what will be here, the stop, the circle with the triangle in it, and the way you can find it, even though it's all black on top, is there's a little, this is where it lights up, so you go back from here and you line up across from the OK, and it's there. So you put your finger on that and you turn it, so pretend it's off, you turn it on, and then while you're holding this down, you take your finger off that and then you press on that 5 times. It all just sounds ludicrous, but you do. 5 times, and then this light will just, and then you can take a finger off that, and then that is in service mode. Then what you do is on your computer you download Service Tool version 1074, and to do that on my computer I had to also download WinZip, which is for unzipping files, because it comes down as a zipped file. I unzipped it, and this is what, when you open it, you get. You then, as it says here, these are the instructions, you press EEPROM and it will print out a piece of paper like this. And this piece of paper, if you look at the very top here, it says D, which is the number that you're looking at. D is 96, that's 96% out of 100. So that's very nearly all of my ink absorption used up. So what you then have to do is you look at your service tool, and if you look here where it says clear ink counter, for the MG8150, you just click main, and then what happens is your printer will print out a sheet like this, where it's a bit slightly wonky paper, but you'll see it just says here D equals 000. So that means that the ink counter has gone back to 0, and now as you can see, my printer is functioning perfectly with no error messages. I regard this as somewhat of a triumph over man over machine, or woman over machine. And I have to say, just quietly, very smug. I'm so pleased, because it was so frustrating that I knew I was really close to getting it done and I just couldn't figure out the final step. But that is how you do it. And finally, I'd like to say many thanks to the people behind Easy Fix Blogspot, the details of which I shall put below this video, where they have laboriously given very detailed instructions for every single type of Canon printer, and what I've done specifically only relates to the MG8150, so you have quite a lot to wade through to actually find the specific information for your printer if you're going to go through this process. But at the end of the day, although the down and dirty bit is quite revolting to dismantle the whole thing and then clean it all, as it turns out at the very end, although I was very nervous about downloading computer programs onto my computer, it actually worked really quickly and really well. So I'd just like to thank them I just want to say to Canon, not that they'll bother to watch this video, but really you're a huge company. You should not be manufacturing machines so that they become obsolescent by just discontinuing them and no longer offering any support for them. If you make a machine that's good enough to last, then you should continue to support that machine and the people that own it until forever, really, until it's done and falls apart. But there is nothing wrong with this machine, and I know other people who've got the same or similar machines, and we're in the same boat where we're stuck with no help from Canon at all, because all we're urged to do is buy a new one, and that is not the way of the world. Actually, we should be about repairing things, not about chucking them out and adding to all the landfill, of which there's far too much in the world at the moment. So have a rethink, Canon. And get on board with the rest of us. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope this gives you the confidence to have a go at something yourself. When your printer gets one of these messages, you really have nothing to lose, because once it says that the ink absorber is full, it will actually stop working. So you either then chuck it out, which is what Canon would have you do, or you have a go at fixing it yourself, which is what I and others have done. And believe me, there's such a tremendous feeling of satisfaction when you've done it. I think it's worth exploring anyway, and even if you can't succeed at the end of the day, it's really quite satisfying to open a machine and to find out how it works and familiarise yourself with it and realise that actually you're perfectly capable of doing it. Anyway, I leave you with that thought and hopefully with some confidence, and I'll see you next time.